Let's go, baby.
Come on now, I get strong. You get strong. You get strong.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
Done for some deep sea fishing? Crack of dawn Saturday?
Oh, let's go, baby.
What time are you heading back?
We'll be back by dusk.
We're gonna be all right. We're four big, strong men.
Well, you can't bench press the ocean.
Look at this haul. This weather is not good.
We gotta wrap it up.
Nicholas, it's Mom. I know you went out fishing this morning. This big storm's supposed to hit. Love you, hon. Bye.
Get back to the boat. I get strong. You get strong. You get strong.
My name's Ansh. I'm with Feature First. Thank you both for agreeing to do this. This is awesome. So, what drew you guys into the story of Not Without Hope? Were you familiar with it at all before?
I heard about it and I was familiar, kind of in passing. I didn't do a deep dive on it, but I definitely knew about the story. And then when I got the script, and then I read this a few months prior to the audition, and then I got the memoir, and I probably listened to it 3 times, and so I got really dialed in.
Yeah.
Over prep.
Mhm.
What about you?
Yeah, no, I actually didn't know the story. I just had the audition come through, kind of like you usually do from your agency, and they had the script attached. And so then read the script, really loved it. Initially, they actually were asking me to audition for another role, and I was like, nah, let me go out for Marquise. And that was a bit of a struggle because at first I think they had somebody they were interested in. But I was like, no, let me go ahead and do it. Send it in. Joe really loved it. And yeah, I think I just really immersed myself into the story and the Marquise himself. And what happened. And I think Marshall will definitely tell you, we just wanted to honor these people's lives. And that happened early on, whether with the book or research I did on the side with just the story. So.
Mhm.
And what Quentin, I think, knows by now is no one's ever anybody's first choice. So I wasn't.
That's
He
real.
wasn't. Yeah.
I know. I was reading up. I was researching the film, and it was a long process. Like it was like 6 or 7 years to get this made. Dwayne Johnson was attached.
Yeah. So this isn't always the same producers,
Mhm.
but 16 years. Okay. Yeah. 16 years. But yeah, there were different leads attached, different producers giving it a shot. So I don't know how long was it with this particular set of. Not you, because you've been attached the whole time. But yeah, I'm talking to
This
Rick French right now,
particular-
by the way. That
But this particular would be, it would be.
because Miles Teller was
6 years.
2020, right?
Yeah.
He was 2020 when we were getting ready to go, right before COVID.
Okay,
And then COVID hit.
so we were 3 years after that. We shot it. Okay.
So Joe Carnahan directed this, and he's like, as an action movie junkie, he's kind of a legend in that genre, and he makes really maximalist action stuff. He's also kind of a niche action guy. What was it like working with him for this story? It's not really his forte, but what was that experience like?
I think, well, as far as it being his forte, I feel like there's some similarities between this and The Gray. But yeah, working with him, when I got this, I had just finished doing Tiny Beautiful Things with Hello Sunshine, and just very, very different, on set presence. And I remember the first Zoom that me and Joe had, he was like already kind of figuring that out, just going saying how we're going to do this thing. And he looked at me, he was like, now, we're gonna push you. Like, you have to be ready to go when you. And I was like, look, you don't have to worry about that with me, because for me, I've always been the type of person that, like, when I wanted to become an actor, it was my thought about it was like going off somewhere overseas potentially, and being really in the shit. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to be on a set that's built in some studio backlot. You know, in this movie, like we're in that water. We're getting hit by waves. We're getting rained on. We're getting the wind. All the things. We're really experiencing as close as you can uh something similar. Like the men who really went through it. Like that's so it's a whole nother level. But to just be going through that and have so many things, I don't know, going against you and working with you, it was just an incredible experience. And I really feel like Joe enhanced that experience for me, for sure.
Yeah, Joe has such an infectious excitement
Yeah.
for his movies. We also call him DJ Carnahan. He'll play music, in between setups and stuff. He really does make it a good time for everybody. And he really just beat the crap out of us. And he'd also play mind games with us, which I'm surprised, like, I didn't catch it at the time, but we go out into the water, and this is ocean water. So we're and Quentin and I, we're not wearing any wetsuits.
Yeah.
So we're getting cold.
Yeah.
And it's all day, and then it's all night. And we get out there and we're wet and cold and shivering, and then he'd be like, "Oh, we got to do a lens change," and that's 15 minutes because it's like underwater housing and stuff. So, and we were just looking at the AD like eating a sandwich, and we're just like, "What's going on here?" Like, but for some reason we weren't like thinking like these are professionals, like they know what they're doing, like they're not. So, but yeah, he definitely like pushed us, and I think he was careful going in to make sure he had the right guys that he could do that too.
I researched, you played football in college, and you're in Chad Powers. So are you guys big football guys? Did that go into choosing this story at all?
I think that was a happy coincidence that we played. I don't think they cast us because we played football, but there's something about being comfortable, being uncomfortable. There's something about team sport, and just that kind of foundation that makes you kind of the right candidate for this type of shoot, I think.
And for me, I actually thought it was interesting because up to this point, because like you said, we filmed this in 2023, I had done nothing that had anything to do with football, and I also played football in college, and I just thought that was interesting, like because when you live that life and then you play in college, that means you played all the way up and you do it, at almost highest level. Obviously, the NFL's the highest level. It just becomes, I think there's a language that you speak. Both me and Marshall, we know what a locker room looks like. We know what that banner looks like. We know what it feels like to be on the field and go through those things. So when we're portraying people that have done the same things, there's kind of this just unknown, not unknown, but like this thing that we've just
Unspoken.
lived. Yes,
Yeah.
unspoken. Thank you. That we've lived in that we just know a bit of who these men are. I don't know if you've seen the movie Sing Sing.
Yeah.
Okay. The acting in that is just so real. And it's because primarily most of them had, that experience.
Everyone
Exactly.
in
Outside
that film.
Coleman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
outside Col- yeah.
and it was just like, I mean, and I forget his name, but the second lead guy, he just blew me away because it was just so real and authentic. And I think when you've lived it, it's just something that you can easily bring to life. So
Yeah, and I'll just say one more thing on that, like to the football aspect of it. Like Quentin and I were, pushing each other a bit. Like neither one of us were going to tap out, because we're definitely the coldest too in terms of like our wardrobe, and I think that really helped the shoot because we got some really long takes, over and over again. Nobody's taking a break, and so yeah, I think that. And also, by the way, he's squatting in this thing, and he's lifting real weights.
yeah.
So he's a very like method, real
At least try to
animal. Yeah. But I do think that all comes from football.
And I think one thing also, me and Marshall, we live really close to each other. So I run into him while I'm still in the audition process, trying to find out I'm going to get it. Just in the gym, he walks up, he's like, "Hey, I'm in this." I'm like, "Wait, what?" And so we also pushed each other beforehand, like with the working out, with the swimming, with the preparation, to do this movie. So it was just like a really cool thing. And then just, I know I'm answering more questions than you even asked, but me, Marshall, and Terrence, I feel like got so close on this shoot. Still have a very active group chat now. And me and Marshall specifically, I feel like it was just so great to go through this with him and with them because I knew he wasn't tapping out. He knew I wasn't tapping out. And I don't know, it enhances so much. This is just one of those projects where it's just like
It's called trauma bonding.
it's one of those projects where I'm just so passionate about this one, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask that as well. So you guys did become good friends. Filmmaking is also a team sport.
Yeah.
How did you guys kind of build up that camaraderie, that brotherhood? I played football in high school, so
Mm.
we like as a team, you're very close, and as co-stars, y'all must be very close. So like, how did you guys capture that dynamic?
I have a very vivid memory of the first time we were on the boat in the uh, in the tank. And again, this is ocean water. There's water cannons, there's dunk tanks, and Quentin and I are in the water. It's nighttime, and so they're doing a test, and it's the four of us on a boat. And right before they call action, oh, with the rain coming down us too. Right before they call action, Quentin's like, uh, something about like I wasn't their first choice, and I know you weren't either, you know. But it's like basically us saying like we're not the first choice. But Quentin's like, I'm gonna, show them why like they didn't make a mistake. Oh man,
Yeah.
it's such a vivid memory, but I don't know exactly what
Yeah,
you said.
no, I said I know myself. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly what I said, but I always try to use fuel to, give me things, and I was just like, they didn't want me here. So I need to prove them that they were wrong. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I knew Marshall had a very similar experience of, like you said, not being the first choice. And like you said, you're usually not the first choice. But something like this where being out there in the water, very cold, long shoots, night shoots, and just coming back to it over and over again, it really reminded me of kind of like two-a-days, in camp where you're like you had to practice early that morning. The last thing you want to do is go out, put the pads on again, and go get in there again. And so every night when we would get there, beforehand, I'd be walking up from hair and makeup to the tank, and the sun would be going down, and the lights would be coming on, and I'd be thinking, like, yeah, you better put those lights on, like we're about to do something special. Um, and then I would just sit out of the tank, like right next to it, looking at it, either visualize what we were gonna do, and then also just like getting myself mentally ready to go in there.
What kind of music were you listening to?
All kinds of stuff.
Okay.
All kinds of stuff. Mostly rap, but I also had like gospel stuff in there because it'll like just emotionally get me going.
I was always trying to hear his playlist.
Yeah,
I would walk by and say, "What is this guy listening to?"
yeah, but I think when we were out there together, it was such a trust, and it almost felt kind of like, very weird way, a very short play, because it wasn't in the sense of like, oh, cut, go again. Like you're out in it, and we're just going, and we'd have to knock out, a big part of the script straight through. And so yeah, we just had trust in each other, and doing that together, you just kind of form that bond, and it stays there.
Yeah. It's a kind of concisely, I would just say it's a very unique experience. Not a lot of people or actors ever get to do, and that made it very special. Yeah.
I like how you put it, like the trauma bonding, because filmmaking is also a very, very gritty
Yeah,
thing.
it's absolutely trauma.
What was it like working with Nick? Did you feel some kind of like responsibility to do it right for him because it's his trauma that you're reliving for him.
I mean, absolutely. When we had a pretty gnarly shoot. It was a night shoot, and he came to set, and I was like, man, of all the days to come to set, this is a pretty heavy scene we were doing, and I could just see it. And he was just looking out at the boat. It was like that kind of 1,000-yard stare. And when he and I first met, he just looked at me like I was already his best friend, and I'm playing his best friend. So I just there was so much like unsaid that I just knew he loved Will, you know. So yeah, huge responsibility for.
And I'll piggyback on that and say not only Nick and in my personal uh stance, like more so Marquise. Obviously I never got the honor to meet him. Um, but when you're playing something that is a true story, and you're playing real human beings, I always take that so seriously. It's something that you can't do lightly, and especially in an event like this that is truly tremendous. Um, so I think all of us did not take that lightly. We put so much specificity on the things that we did, so much thought um, on the choices we made. And one thing, like I said, this movie for me, this project for me was just, it's the one that I hold most dear to my heart. And I just had such an incredible time filming it. But I also always have to remember this also was someone's worst days, right? Um, and yeah, so you have to do everything you can to honor it. You can't take it lightly. There's as many people as I could talk to try to get insight. And yeah, I don't know, just yeah, just take it very seriously. So I think we all did.
Yeah. You do have to catch yourself in those moments sometimes, though, because we're doing what we love.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's somebody's, worst days, and you just have to keep that present all the time.
In watching the movie, it's not just the time on the boat. The film goes into like a lot of what's happening outside that with Marquis' family and Nick's family. Did you guys ever meet their families, and was there a responsibility in that to do it right by them?
No, we weren't able to meet. Well, I mean, we did meet Nick's family,
Mm.
obviously, and met Nick, but no, on Marquis' family, no, was not able to meet them. I thought there was so much responsibility in me personally to just the one thing that was most important to me in making this was not make this any worse for his family. That was very, very important to me. Um, and to at least do everything I could to try not to. Uh, and everybody's going to have their own personal reactions, and I can't even imagine what it would be like to be part of his family and have your son, your brother, your husband, father have this happen to him. And I did. I really. I'm a pretty spiritual person, and before we started the movie, I just I said and I prayed and I was like, if there's anything, talking to Marquise, if there's anything he wanted to say through me, I wanted to allow it. And I don't know, whether that happened. I didn't necessarily feel anything, but I know that I just really wanted to be um, aware that, we had a real responsibility with this movie to honor um, the men who went through this. And that was something that was always on my mind and is still on my mind. In this doing this press with you, I'm like, hey, you got to make sure that you're still honoring these men. So yeah, and I know for a fact that was one of Joe's biggest things he wanted to do with this movie, and I believe all of us feel that same way.
Mm.
Um, so I want to round this out by something later. I wanted to ask Quentin about your time on Chad Powers, your experience on that. What was that like?
Yeah, no, I mean Chad Powers was cool. It's a very, it was. I think the thing about Chad that really stood out for me was that it was pretty authentic to the sport through NCAA football. We used real logos. We used the real SEC logo, real brands in it, and that was cool. Just being somebody who played college football, who'd been around it. It was a really fun thing to be a part of. Um, and similarly in this, we were playing people who have truly been in the NFL and in having that camaraderie. And while it wasn't necessarily while this was happening, it still mimicked a lot of the relationships that I had um, through college football, the relationships that we had through the cast. And so through both of these, it's really just great to get to revisit something that's part of your past and that you don't really get to revisit all that often outside of just watching college football or watching NFL. It was nice to just kind of, no pun intended, but dip my toe back in that water.
That's all the questions I have for you guys. Thank you so much for doing this. It's an incredible film, and I truly think that you were able to embody those men and honor their memories like that so
Oh,
well.
thank you, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So,
Yeah.
thank you guys for doing this again.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.